how the mother and the father figure was in your household, if you even had one. That's going to contribute to how you view relationships. And then even, you know, when you first start to become old enough to get into a relationship, how that affects you. So I think a lot of it is internal conflict, especially if you're a person who gets jealous of your partner. I've seen that, I've experienced that. But that person had a lot of internal issues that was never dealt with. And instead of dealing with it, or even knowing to deal with it, because I don't even know if they knew, it was taken out on me. As if I was responsible for, because I've gotten told, let me be the man in a relationship. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. You know?
So then we need more clarity, maybe as far as gender roles, or do they even play a part? Do you want a relationship with gender roles? Maybe that's something that has to be discussed up front. You know, what do you think?
I mean, I think the feeling underappreciated causes a lot of competition. And like she was saying, you know, once you start to compete with your partner, that causes a lot of chaos. And then it's, you know, just a lot of back and forth and nitpicking with each other. Not finding a common ground and not being considerate towards the other person because of what you feel like you're missing. So, you know, if you can learn to be reciprocal, even as the man, I feel like I have to kick that off. I have to be the one to understand how to cycle the energy over from, if there is something negative in our space, I have to learn how to turn that into a positive. So I have to learn how to encourage and how to inspire, even in the midst of chaos. And like I said, as the man and as the leader, you know, I'm supposed to do that.
So then there's a balance of masculine, feminine energy. Understanding maybe that the masculine energy, you know, maybe you can expound upon.
It's when to give and when to receive.
Right.
Because that's the hard part. I think that's kind of the basis of the masculine and feminine energy, or a simple way of understanding it is to move in feminine energy is to receive and reflect, and to move in the masculine is to give and direct. I think that those things play a huge part in how you communicate, and that's important. Effective communication.
So what would you say the number one problem in majority relationships would be? What causes, what would men say, what would women say the number one problem is?
I don't know if that's what they would say, but as far as for me, they don't ask enough questions of each other. They don't know each other enough. And they don't communicate, like he was saying, effectively. So we'll communicate, but we're not really getting to the root of what I want in a relationship and what that other person wants in a relationship. So what happens is I have an idea of what I want the relationship to look like. He has an idea of what the relationship, and our ideas don't even come close to matching.
Right.
And we're both trying to live up to what our idea is, and we don't do nothing but clash because we never really communicated. Well, do we even need to be together? Because if what my idea of a relationship is ain't what yours is, what's the point in trying to make it work? Especially if we're not trying to compromise.
So how do we miss that? Like when you're dating and courting, do we that conversation just get skipped over because of the excitement and because of
I don't think we're taught that part. I don't think we're taught like I said, we all have an idea of what we think a relationship is supposed to look like. And we take that idea and we automatically assume that other person has the exact same idea. Because that's our concept of what a relationship is. And we don't share that because we don't think you know, they're gonna think any different. This is what a relationship is. This is what I've always looked at it as. So I'm pretty sure that he does too, you know. So, but I think that is a huge issue. Just because that's just like literally having two people working on a building a company. Building a building together, but nobody has the blueprint. Nobody has a blueprint. And he's got his idea on how he wants to build a building, and he has his idea on how he wants to build it. And literally, you got glass windows and then bars on this side, so it won't be effective, and it won't be a full, complete, perfect structure unless you have communication, and that blueprint, you know, is in the middle of them both, and they've discussed it.
And on top of that, you have to establish some type of structure, and everybody's role has to be appreciated and understood, because the engineer is just as important as the architect, and they're just important as the construction workers. So if everybody's respected, even though the engineer kicks it off, you still got to respect the construction workers, because without them it won't work. So when everybody is appreciated, then it opens the lines of communication. It gives you room to express, you know, what you're feeling, and it's, you know, as long as you understand the structure and the structure is agreed upon.
So we talk a lot about Kevin Samuels, and his biggest thing is that women do not appreciate what men bring to the table. A lot of times he says, do we even like men? Or do we view them as, what we need, versus do we want to get to know them? Do we really like them? What do you think?
I feel like a lot of times we get treated like a service provider. A lot of things that we do go unnoticed. A lot of things that we feel responsible for go unnoticed, and they don't get recognized and validated. Not necessarily validated, but the feedback. You know what I mean? We don't get feedback. It's like you're not even aware of the things that we're taught to do as a man. So, like I said, it goes unrecognized, and that can be stressful. That can make us feel unappreciated.
So does it go back to childhood then? Because when we raise our girls and our boys, what's the difference? What do we end up doing? I find myself paying a lot of detailed attention to my daughter, and I don't know if it's because I'm female or if that's just what the daughters are dating. You know, they have to be put together. Women have to, women are looked at more versus a boy, growing into a man. They're more doers. Men view us as lack of a better word to say. But men are physical. They're attracted to our physicalness. Everybody looks at women. Women are beautiful. They're the flowers of the world, So it's almost like you pay a lot of attention to your daughters, and then your boys, you kind of just let them go, let them be free. And little girls come out more verbal. So you kind of know more of what they need, where little boys kind of have to be taught to express themselves. But then, is that feminine to express yourselves and be emotional and say how you feel and what you need? Is that viewed as feminine? Is that okay socially? Even in 2021, to raise your little boy to be expressive?
I think it's getting better. I think, when I was little, a boy couldn't cry. A boy couldn't cry, a boy couldn't show emotion, anything like that. But it ain't where it needs to be now, at all. But I feel like it's getting a little bit better. But I definitely know that there's a huge difference between, of course the roles. The roles are, and I feel like they're kind of, I wouldn't say imbalanced, but I think sometimes the perception can be a little toxic.
I think there's a time and a place for feelings to be expressed. At home, a man should be able to express his feelings to his woman and his children, and he should be able to express himself. But in the workforce, or on the field, or on the court, or in the arena, feelings aren't they're not important. It's about pushing through. So a man has to be balanced and understanding. If he's not balanced, then you'll bring, your work attitude or your field attitude into the home, and then that's when it becomes destructive, and that's when it can become harmful for the family.
So we have a lot of single mothers raising young boys. What type of advice then would you give to single mothers to raise their boys to where they can be balanced, where they can express themselves at home? How do you tell a little boy how to be able to balance that out?
Well, you gotta teach him to center himself, to calm. When he's feeling something, he has to find a grounding place. He has to find a place to say, okay, let me pull myself together and so I can get this out. And that promotes effective communication, because if you're wild and out of control and you're being emotional, then you can't get anything done. You're not going to be able to effectively express yourself.
So are we still telling them not to cry?
You're not telling them not to cry, but you do help them to find a grounding space. Crying, just as far as tears, that's fine. But when you can't catch your breath and all that, you gotta catch your breath first before you can effectively express yourself. Because otherwise, you're just making a bunch of noise and causing people to be in a panic, and that's never a good thing, especially when you're trying to get a point.
And I definitely understand that, because it's rough for little boys in elementary school, middle school, and I'm sure high school to teach them to be, in touch with their feelings. They can't go to school and do that. Matter of fact, school does the complete opposite. A lot of kids completely lose their vulnerability in school. Those that are vulnerable are the weak, and they get attacked. So how do you, how do you help them tackle that and still stay balanced?
To be able to ground yourself and defend yourself, you know what I mean? Those can work together. Teaching them how to defend themselves, even verbally, is important. So if they don't learn that, then that's when they have the violent reactions. That's when they want to fight, or they start to get in trouble or be disruptive, because they feel like their feelings aren't being heard, or their opinion, or they feel like they're not even being recognized. So when you feel that what you have to say or what you have to express is important, then you can calm down. You won't have as many violent reactions or be as disruptive, because when it's your turn to talk, you're going to be heard.
Definitely deep-rooted things right there with, as I would think that my daughter notices how much the boys express themselves and versus how much she expresses herself. So then she's being trained right now. Do I pay attention to men's feelings and emotions, or are mine more important because I express mine more? And, it's just big. It's just a lot to that. I would think that the way that we react towards men now, I still myself, I don't know the balance of it, because while we say we want a man who's in touch with his feelings, it is a bit scary when you're in a tough situation and he might break down. Right. You don't want to see that. Right. You don't want to see that.
And that's what I'm saying. That's because he wasn't taught to ground himself.
Mm.
If he's having a breakdown, then that's he's extremely overwhelmed, and he can't find a space to hold on and say, okay, I'm here, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. And when he's taught to find a lot of martial arts, that's why they teach meditation and grounding yourself before you do any action. Because that's important, or you'll be out of control. So you have to find a balance. It's all about finding a balance, even before or during expressing yourself.
So then, okay, so to counter that, then we then have to go in and teach the little girls to be aware, even though they have to be strong. We still need to teach them. They need to be aware that they have feelings, they have emotions. You can't just, because they have to be this for us, you cannot ignore how they feel because they're not expressing it. It's just ingrained. It's ingrained deeply in us. And I noticed it in my ex-marriage. It was rare to hear him express his feelings, but when he did, it definitely was shocking. And then the way that he expressed them was so blunt at that time that it was hard to hear. And you just feel like they're being mean. You know? Like, I don't like the way you express your feelings, so I don't want to hear it. You know, but yeah.
And in my situation, I'm sorry, go ahead. Well, in my situation with my ex, he overly expressed. Like, there was always an issue, there was always emotion, there was always a problem. And then if I didn't respond the way he wanted to, that's when he got aggressive. So it was which, because I watched my mother go through that, that's the same thing I attracted. So that was pretty much generational for us in our family, with having, well, with my mom anyway. I wouldn't say her, I don't know about her sisters, but with my mom specifically, that was generational. So for me personally, that's why I think everybody's situation is so different. There is no concrete answer, you know, because everybody's situation is, I mean, there's so many people, there's so many different situations that can cause the disconnect. But that is where, I remember the question you asked earlier, do we like men? I didn't like men. I mean, after a long time, I thought I just had to have a man in my life because that's how it worked and that's what it looked like, and that's what you're supposed to do when you have children, you know. But because of my experience with men, I didn't like men. I didn't like who they were. I didn't like what they brought to the table. I've never seen a man really treat a woman right. I did see it with my grandparents, but they were old. We don't look at them like that. They were like, you know, older. But it took me to walk away from my relationship to see that there has to be better, you know. And what really done it for me was like, well, if I feel like I'm a good person, I know I'm not the only good person on the planet. There's got to be somebody else like me somewhere. And it took that to kind of open my eyes to try to give a man a chance, in a sense, you know. And it wasn't like I didn't like men, so I went to women. It wasn't like that. It was just, they really left a bad taste in my mouth, just based on my personal experience. So even with he and I, it was hard. Like, I was like, I'm not used to this. Why are you having emotion? Like, I don't understand. Like, your feelings, what are those? You know, but you know, it was really different. It was something I had to really work on. And it was like a reflection. It was like, this is what you said you wanted. This is what you've been healing to get. So now that it's here, you're going to have to evolve. You're going to have to expand. You're going to have to shift your perspective. So, and it was difficult. It was definitely difficult, but it was worth it. And you know, it was like, okay, I see it a lot different now. You know, I see that communication is important. We do have to talk. I see that I can't, you know, I have to learn how to handle my triggers so I don't go off, you know, off the handle, you know. So it was definitely like, and I'm a runner, you know, that whole track star song. Yeah, he liked to sing it, but I am like, if he gets like, I don't have to deal with this, I'm out, you know. But yeah, but it's like I said, it was really more than anything. I had to look at myself. I had to look at myself, and I had to ask myself some serious questions. What do you want in a relationship? Because I did not know. After being married 19 years, 16 years, I still didn't know what I wanted in a relationship. I just took what was there. And dating a little bit after that, I still didn't know. And then I got to the point where it's like, I don't want to keep doing this. What do I want? What is it that I want? And then I need to communicate that to the person that I'm going to be with, so that we can be on the same page.
Exactly. Makes sense. Makes sense. So then it leads me to the question, do we all dislike men? As a little girl, you're like, I don't like boys.
Right. Right.
But then you like them. You don't necessarily like their personalities, but you definitely like them. They're attractive. They may open the doors for you.
Right.
They compliment you. All the things that they do for you feels good. So then we just grow into this thing where until you mature, you're doing something for me, I'm doing, so you're validating me, I validate you. But then when you get to the meat of it, can we get along? Are we compatible? The chemistry is there. Do we connect? And I think then that's where you get into your soulmate, But the way that we raise our daughters, and I almost think the way that I was raised, to believe that a man, at this point, maybe the man could be optional. You go to school, go to college, graduate, so that you can take care of yourself just in case.
Yeah.
And a lot of people consciously do that.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, is it safe not to do that? Where did that fear come from? That men weren't going to step in? Because and the way that inflation works and housing costs, can you do it alone if you're an average earner? Can you do it alone and without getting too far off of what we were talking about, when you do get older and you realize, okay, I was raised to be independent, but I want a man. Then you get into the relationship and you don't know how to relate because you're so independent. So now, you're taking on the masculine role. You're used to operating in your masculine energy to get things done, which everybody has a balance of male-female energy, from what I understand. And we don't know how to switch back to the feminine when the man is there. He's here now.
Let go of the wheel. Let go of the wheel.
Right.
Yeah, because honey, I was like, I am not letting go of this steering wheel, sir. I refuse.
So is the problem in then raising your daughter to be independent?
It's kind of hard. Well, I wouldn't say, sometimes I just see you. I watched my mom. I guess she didn't, my mom worked. My father didn't work. My mom worked. She worked like a mad woman. She had 2 or 3 jobs sometimes. Then every day after her job, she'll come home, she'll leave again and go to her night job. This was every day. And so this is what I saw. But I saw my father in the streets. So it was like, mama worked. So that's what the woman does. So I was taught that without being taught that. And the same thing with my daughters. I worked. Their father was at home. I was the breadwinner. So it's almost like, without being actually told you need to be independent, I saw her being independent. And I saw her not being taken care of by my father. So out of fear, I did the exact same thing. And I ended up with almost a replica, unfortunately, of my father. And my girls had to see that. My son had to see that. And I have a daughter now who works. She don't like working, but she wants that money.
Right.
This is my youngest. So I don't know if it's, I wouldn't say it's good or bad to raise your daughter to be independent. Because it is hard to depend on somebody that you've never seen there for yourself. So she'd never seen her father there for her, support her financially, or the family. She's like, if I can't expect my father to do it, how can I expect another random man to do it? And that's how I felt. If I can't expect my father to be, independent and take care of the household, how could, I wouldn't expect anybody else to do it, or even attempt. It wasn't even as if he fell on bad times. He just didn't do it, so that was definitely probably the main reason why I had the work ethic that I did, because I watched my mother do it for so long. Now looking at it, I guess after the divorce and seeing my situation, I wish I would have chose somebody that I could be a partner with. I wouldn't necessarily say I need somebody to do it for me, because I'm very independent, period, and I just have ideas and things that I want to do. But to know that I worked so hard for so long and still, was barely making it because I was doing it by myself. It's hard. It's hard to look at it like that. But also, I want to look at my daughters and I want to tell them, you make sure you know how to take care of yourself, because I know I've seen it, but also too, is that giving them I'm gonna call it an energetic field to attract men who are dependent.
Right.
So it depends. I really don't know. Is that what my mama created when she did what she did in the household? Did she give me the energetic field to create a man who was gonna be a dependent versus be the dependable one?
Right.
So I don't know. I wish I did.
Right. We're trying to figure it
But
out.
I don't know. But because of my own experience and my fear, I don't want my daughter to not have. So I would rather tell her, be independent. So regardless of what it looks like, you will be okay. You won't have to depend on nobody to take care of you.
Right. So
Okay.
it's interesting because, of course, a lot of times we default to fear.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you fear the most, you draw to you. So knowing that, and I hate to keep quoting Kevin Samuels, but he believes that you should raise your daughters the way the old school people raise their daughters to be a wife, to be able to cater to a man and to keep yourself looking a certain way so that you can attract that man that can be the provider. Is really controversial because a lot of women see that as type of slavery, or what's the word I'm looking for? That whole idea of submission is not empowering. When I think about my daughter, she wants to be a lawyer, and I would never tell her, don't go be a lawyer, but at the same time, I do tell her, you're going to want to have children one day. Keep in mind, that type of career, once you begin to have children, you may have to choose between raising your children and your career. If you want to be married, what should your focus be? If you want to be married and have kids, and then if you don't want to be married and have kids right now, and you change your mind later, that could pose a problem for you. So I think, and I learned a lot of this from you, just making a child aware, whatever you choose for yourself, just make sure you know what you're really choosing.
It comes with it.
Yeah, because I can't, I don't want to impose my beliefs and my thoughts on my kids, but I don't want them to be uninformed and ignorant.
Right.
And I really think that's what Kevin Samuels is trying to do with a lot of people. Like, listen, you can choose what you want. If you want a high value man, this is what you need to do to get him. If you don't want one, you may die alone. And be prepared for, from age 65 to 80, to make sure you have enough income to where you can retire, where you're not out here working and killing yourself to keep your money coming, you know. And so then a lot of things, and I don't know how y'all feel about this, I see, you know, a lot of older couples, and this is hard to say, but a lot of the women shine in their older age, but they don't look like they shine like the men shine. Sometimes a man with his grays, he becomes more debonair and he can attract younger women to where older women sometimes are not. They can, but without the surgeries, without the dyeing of the hair.
I think though I think it's pushed that way though. You know what I'm saying? That is the agenda.
Okay.
So the older man, I mean, it's pushed on TV, the gray hair, automatically, older woman with gray, that's we color our hair. We don't even allow it to be natural.
Right, exactly.
Because society says it's not beautiful.
Right.
So that's the way it's pushed. It's almost, I mean, I feel like that's just the agenda, just like having to choose to be a career woman and a mother. The man doesn't have to choose, but we have to choose.
Right.
You know, in order to be happy. That's not fair, because what if we want to do both? We can be happy in both. They can be happy in both. But we're required to sit at home, take care of the kids. If we want an easy life, if we we don't want to be lonely, if we don't want A, B, and C, we got to choose between being a stay-at-home mom to keep myself together, to all this, in order to have a high-value man. That's not what I want to do to myself, just to put a man in a role to keep me.
Right.
So it's like, well, what's the, you know, what are we telling our daughters? What am I telling my daughter if I tell her, you know, I don't know if I want to tell her to choose. I don't know if I want to tell her to have to think about it, because, you know, if you want to be a mom, be a mom. If you want to be, you know, a career woman and a mom, I can't tell you you're going to be a career woman and a man too, like, and a father too. That's not.
But
we don't pose the same
they don't
question.
carry the babies.
Right, they don't
have to.
carry the baby.
Right.
But I mean, you can even look at in different countries. You look at the U.S. and you look at, I want to say, was it London? Somewhere in Europe. I can't remember where it was. After they have the baby, not only does the mother take maternity leave, but the father takes maternity leave. And then it's not like 4 to 6 weeks and then you back to work. They take maternity leave for a whole 6 months.
That's awesome.
And so here it's like, it's a structure that is created to keep us in chaos, because we have to follow this lifestyle. Like it's put in place in order for us to have to follow this lifestyle.
I think being taken care of comes with a price for anybody, man, woman, anybody. So if you want to live a life to where you're not out in the world earning money, then you have to work in the home, and whatever that looks like with your partner is what it's going to be. So you got to know what comes with your choices. So and it's nothing wrong with being an independent woman as long as you know how to let go of the wheel. So teaching your daughter, okay, make sure you take care of yourself, and if you expect a man to take, this is just me, if you expect a man to take care of you, you got to know that you're going to have to be taking care of business at home. And that's just how it works. You can take care of yourself.
That part, but I'm talking about as far as having to choose between being a mom and being a career woman.
Right.
That's what I'm speaking on. I mean, I get that portion too, but it's funny because it doesn't. I mean, it's just definitely a double standard in a lot of cases.
I use myself as an example. I wasn't a career woman, but I did have goals for my children to where I wanted to breastfeed them to a certain age. I wanted to homeschool them. That was just me. So I knew I wanted to keep a close-knit relationship with my children. So it wasn't an option for me to go out here and make myself big in the world, because I knew I want a family. That's just what I want to invest my time in. Somebody that, for instance, my daughter, she wants to be a lawyer. Like I said, I wouldn't tell her to choose, but at the same time, I would make her aware that you are the woman, you carry the baby. Do you? Because she asked me the other day. She said, "Mom, if I don't breastfeed my kids, will my kids be stupid?" No, they won't be stupid. But it does. There's studies that say that breastfeeding helps your children to be more intelligent. I don't know if that's true or not, but
when you think about it, do men even really get that option? To say, I want to be a stay-at-home dad? That's not nothing that's taught. That's not even in our minds. You know what I mean? So we automatically, you're on your own once you get out. You got to figure this out. You got to provide. You got to provide for yourself. You have to provide for your family. So there's no option to be, oh, you know what, maybe I'll just be a stay-at-home dad, or I'll work real hard for a woman and make her happy at home, and then, you know, then she'll take care of me. Because that's not, you know what I mean? That's not considered masculine. Like, you know, another man is not going to respect that.
right.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, with you saying it's not considered masculine, does a man feel masculine when he's in that role? Does he feel like he's...
I'm going to say no. Based on personal experience, I'm going to say no. Because when I was the breadwinner, now mind you, for the entire marriage, I wasn't the breadwinner. He was in the military the first 5 years. But after that, I noticed a pattern. You know, it was a struggle to keep, you know, and I was like, okay, even with my income and his income, and he wasn't really dependent on keeping a job, that's when I knew, okay, you're gonna have to step up if you wanna, you know, not drown. And so that's what I did, and I began to build my career in certain things, but I began to notice that there was excuse after excuse after excuse to where it couldn't work. I ain't gonna work, or my back hurt, or my head hurt, or things of that nature. Or I had to quit this job because this happened. I had to quit that job. And although he wasn't doing his part to, even at home while I was at work, that he was expecting me to do that as well. But he wasn't proud of that role, but he wasn't doing anything to get out of that role either. So me being who I am, I'm seeing the good in everything. I'm supporting and I'm pushing and I'm supporting and I'm pushing. But I'm trying to help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. So it left me depleted. So not only am I taking care of the kids, I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking care of the home, and I'm taking care of bills. So at this point, what do I need you for?
I think in the home, the partner or the wife determines whether the man feels masculine, how he is treated, how he's received, and how he's communicated with. I think that's the core of feeling like a man. Do I feel like a man? How am I treated for doing what I do, for providing, you know, whatever services it is that I'm providing. So if I'm getting the respect, then it's possible. And of course, financially, if you're a stay-at-home man, then you're going to get to a point to where within yourself as a man, you're going to want to earn something. You're going to want to earn. You're going to want to be able to give your family things. Right. So you will stand up if you have a support team and you have people that you can go to as a man and get the things that you didn't get that caused you to be in that position, then you can rise to the occasion. But if not, then there's no way you can feel mad.
We're going to finish this discussion, guys. Tune in. We'll keep you posted.